Hey guys, DeathClock Dave here, and welcome to another Wednesday night live stream battle report recap. If you're enjoying the content we're creating, please go ahead and hit like on that video, subscribe to the channel. You can follow us on Facebook by searching for DeathClock Dave, and our players frequently watch the comments on Facebook and on YouTube if you have any comments about the matchups, or perhaps if we made any mistakes that weren't caught during the match. So this evening we had Pat Badminton playing as Trollbloods versus myself playing Legion. This scenario was scenario 3, spread the net, and I won the role to go first and decided to go first. So Pat, what did you have in your pairing this evening?
Well, my pairing was Madrak1 with all the dudes, double champions and all that funness.
In Band of Heroes?
In Band of Heroes.
Yep.
And the other one was Borka 2. And that would be a Power of Dunia Beast Brick.
Right, gotcha.
I ended up going with Madrak1 because, well, quite frankly, I had a feeling you were going to play your new hotness.
Yep.
And I had no idea what she did, and I felt a lot better going into it with something I've at least played before instead of trying out something brand new.
Gotcha. Sounds good. So I had Pythagoras in Children of the Dragon and Anamag in Primal Terror. So trying out Anamag and Amok the Truthbearer, who come out later this month with all of the War Spears. It's a major armor cracking list, and I chose Anamag. I thought about choosing Pythagoras, but in both of his lists, his beasts have snacking, and in the Band of Heroes list, his all of his dudes have RFP on their melee attack. So if I had chosen Pythagoras, there was a very good chance that I was not going to get a feat because my beast was probably going to be removed. So spread the net. We've got 2 rectangular zones and a circular zone in the center, and 2 flags. We have all of the things to score on, so it was definitely a very live scenario. So for the terrain that we have on the board, the very bottom we have we've got water. To the left of that, we have here I'm showing my two proxies in the list. So the keg hauler is Amok, and Mr. Boom Howler is Anamag. Everything else is as is. So water at the very bottom. To the left of that we have rubble. Above that we have a hill. To the right of that we have a house in the middle of the zone. Just below and to the right of that we have a forest. To the right of that we have a wall. Up above that we have another forest, and to the left of that another forest. So I won the role to go first and decided to go first because I wanted to try to be in a commanding position. I think I might have liked the other side of the board a little bit better for where I could potentially place my Hellmouths behind the forests. Pat, why did you choose that side?
Well, I chose this side because, honestly, I wanted to deny you the wall because I wasn't sure 100% what your caster could do. Right. And last thing I need is to find out you're some great little magic using hiding was. So I decided to take the side to deny you the wall. I did think long and hard about it because the forests make it a little tricky, but I do have.
You said long and hard.
Yeah, I know.
Carry on. Pudding.
Hey, someone's got it around here.
Carry on.
And so I decided that with the fell color in my list, it would make it so the forests weren't that much of a deal. So
makes
don't worry. You know, for you, things might have been long and hard, but I decided to say to heck with it, and I go straight into the bush.
Oh, jeez, I'm so sorry, guys. So for my deployment on my far right flank, I've got I've got 3 units of War Spears with the UA. So on the far right flank, I've got one with the Warmonger War Chief behind them to give them a sweet buff. I've got my Blightbringer, another unit from there. I have Amok in the middle there, and with Anamag, and then I've got another unit on the far left flank with the War Chief solo as well, just to try to get that +1 bubble as far as possible. And then I've got my Hellmouths, which are going to be distant deployed here shortly. So, Pat, tell us about your deployment.
Well, I deployed my Krell warriors in sort of a checkerboard pattern so I could place my other units dispersed among them, because I needed to get my Krell warriors up front to make them a good meat shield.
Yep.
And thanks to Madrak's Tactician, it lets me move through my own models.
Yes, Tactician.
So I did that, and I set up my 1 unit of champions down at the bottom. I ended up setting up on the bottom left. I ended up setting up my second unit at the top. I put the stone as central as I can, because every troll knows that's where the stone belongs.
Yep.
I did realize I kind of goofed up without a place for my beasts, so I ended up moving a few models just to get the bomber up a little closer, because with those bombs, you know, you gotta get him in there as soon as you can to get some blast damage.
Yeah, and he gets he can shoot pretty far too. So.
Exactly, and I got Madrak fairly centered along, and I made sure that the Fell Caller was at the far edge of the Krells so that he could give them, you know, Pathfinder to get through the forest and so on. And
so the unit, so it's 2 full units of champs, and the one on your far right flank is the unit with Scaldy.
Is Scaldy,
yeah. Okay. So here I am placing my Hellmouths. So I figure I might as well put the Hellmouth in the cover. Just determining where I can place everything so I'm not going to get shot as soon as possible, kind of thing. So put them there, put the other one behind the forest so that my tentacles can go out and drag people in, but my Hellmouth is free from harm, which is great. Being able to hide your Hellmouth and then drag stuff in is lovely. So
that's how you get a date.
Yeah. Oh, Pat. So here, deciding what I'm going to do in my first, I'm pointing out my army right now, but in this army and in this list, I knew that placement was going to be huge. This list is very much dependent on where your Blightbringer ends up sitting, and where all of your War Spears are in relation to that Blightbringer. They want to be within his command of 6, if at all possible, to be benefiting from his Blight Breath things, and then potentially charging into the 5-inch ring that he leaves with his Blightbringer shot as well. So here I'm bumping all my models around. War Spears are hard, and Giant Tail on Blightbringer is hard because it's impossible to have everything close by between the spears on their backs and the spears that they're holding out. So there's lots of inadvertent bumps here.
I'll keep playing with them.
So this is Amok moving up first. So she put Bond of Gristle and Bone on the far left flank of War Spears because I knew they were going to be far enough away from the Blightbringer that they couldn't benefit from his armor buff. So I wanted them to have that armor buff so they could kind of be independent on that left flank. Here I'm just dirtling around with my Hellmouth tentacles to make sure that to make sure that they are in a spot where they're not going to get shot by either the bomber or by Madrak on the first turn. There's no sense in losing something unnecessarily on the first turn. So here I've placed where my Blightbringer is going to end up, so that I can then figure out where my War Spears are going to be to try and be within that armor bonus, just on the off chance he scatters some bombs into me or something. So running the War Spears around. So and the prey targets. So I put the two left units. I'm terrified of the champions. They're a pain in the butt to kill. Very high defense, especially with Madrak's spell and when they're base to base. So I put the 2 left units. I put their prey targets both on the Scaldy unit because that's the largest unit. And then on my right flank, I put those War Spears. The prey is on the other unit of champs, because I was going to need all the help I could get in hitting them and trying to put as much damage into them as quickly as possible, because with their Sanguine Bond, it makes them very difficult to remove. So here I'm just running up my War Spears, trying to get them prepared for the following turn. I try to put them in places where if he does happen to move up too far and I get a tentacle that can get in and grab one of his models and draw it in, that I could potentially charge and remove that piece for free. So that's why they're placed there. I moved Amok up just to be near enough to Anamag to give out his lovely bonuses. Ran up my Blightbringer and Riled so that I could top off my Fury. Fury management is definitely a thing here as well, because he's only Fury 5 and she is Fury 7. So it's a balance of that and her free spells. And then I just ran up my UAs and the solo. So it kept the UAs back far enough so as to not lose them, and ran my Spell Martyr up toward the flag to try and start controlling there. So Pat, over to your turn.
Yeah. So I've had some bad experiences with Hellmouths before, but unfortunately not very much. So I'm still a little gun shy of them. So we spend the first part of the turn trying to figure out exactly how far they threaten, and I end up putting down a couple of widgets to help me mark that out. So what my plan here is to I use my Fell Caller to put Pathfinder on the Krell Warriors, and I run them up as far as I can. And I admit I kind of joked with you a little bit. I let you think I got those Krell Warriors too close, but I actually meant to give you 2 because they're Krell Warriors. They're a meat shield.
Yep.
And it would also help draw you out a bit more, which I think it did on that flank. Because down on the left side, it got you a little bit more interesting later on. Yep. So I ran them up as a meat screen. The champions on the top of the screen, which is my right, I used them to go up and make sure that I had placement in the upper zone. And while I started to send the Mauler that way because he's a beast, so he can score the rectangular zone while the champions can't. Yep. I made sure to move up Madrak and start casting the best spell ever with Even Ground, because you gotta love that.
+2 defense. Trolls going to def 14 and not being able to get knocked down is just like...
Oh, that's amazing. And when you activate the Rune Bearer first to get with Harmonious Exaltation, and you give it to him for even cheaper, it gets even better, and it gets even bigger because of that lovely 2 inches he gives the caster.
And
that's right, ladies. Gives them the 2 inches.
And you even left him close enough to Madrak to make sure he had no problem.
Yes, I've learned from my previous
getting
flops.
that 2 inches. So
well, I've learned some things at least.
Yep.
So I did that. I kept the bomber in a pretty decent spot. I wanted to keep him back because with your warmongers and how much damage they're the war spears, sorry, and how much damage they could put out, especially with their assaults and everything. I didn't want to lose one of my only 2 beasts too soon.
Yeah, makes sense.
And to be honest, keeping a good layer of meat between my bomber and your guys, it's really good because it gives me more opportunities to take advantage of those bombs that he can throw.
Yep, he's with a snipe animus, that's pretty, or far strike, I guess.
Yeah, with the far strike animus, it gives him a 12-inch threat on a 4-inch AoE.
He threats 17 inches and a POW 16 with reload 2, so that's or reload 1. Sorry, so
exactly.
2 shots.
So that's great, and move up the Garish the Occultist, getting him more up the front than anything right now, and double checking here to make sure everyone's within the right place for Madrak, because you gotta love that spell. So I use that and put the rest of it into the stone, because yes, it's great. It can activate itself now and power itself up. But it's still good to give it that little jump start.
Yeah, it's a great ability because it's pretty much almost always fully fueled, which is great. So
exactly.
So you can see down below you've got your full unit of champs behind your meat shield, and then up above you've got your champs behind the forest. And
I've moved everybody up to keep them behind the barriers so that they would be just out of your reach. Except for those couple of Krell Warriors, which. Yes, they're behind the barrier, but with the circular reach of your models, I figured those 2 were going to get in there. So, and I admit I might have played a little trick on Dave and been like made it out like that was an accident. But I wanted to draw him out and see what goes. So
either way, that's exactly where the Hellmouths go because the Hellmouths are my meat shield. They are to get in your way because if you take a free strike, I can actually proc my my grab and pull, and I can pull you into the Hellmouth and bite you. So so they are. They are meant to get in the way. They are free meat shields. So
Krell Warriors aren't quite free meat shields, but they're pretty close. And then I pass it on to you.
So here I'm having a look. I know that Pat left the bulk of his stuff out of threat. I knew I wanted to put the far left Hellmouth, at least a couple of tentacles in spots. I didn't even care about hitting because they're only mat 6 versus his def 14 from the even ground. So I wasn't super counting on hitting them, but I needed to put them in the way so that he's got 2 medium-based models with reach that are in the way, and if he takes a free strike, I can potentially draw him in, pull his unit his model out of formation, and then the Hellmouth gets a free bite attack. So just basically to block up those charge lanes. It does end up only being a couple of models, so it's not a huge amount of models he has to remove, but it is something that he has to commit to, because the Hellmouths, you roll one less damage die, so it can be a significant amount of effort if you don't get a charge to actually remove them. So
that's why champions are great to deal with them.
Yep.
Being weapon masters.
Yep.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter so much with them. Yep, does not matter so much with them. So here I've moved my my Hellmouth tentacles at the top left into spots where they would be outside of threat ranges as much as possible. I don't believe any of them are in threat. His full unit of champions on his hard right flank are completely behind the forest, so I have put my my Hellmouth tentacles in a spot where they cannot. I'm out of threat range of everything. I'm moving up the War Spears on my left flank just to get in a spot where I can basically counterattack when he moves forward. So at this point, he's not going to be able to get a whole lot. He'll have a couple of shots he can get to me from his bomber and from Madrak, but not a whole lot he can do in terms of melee damage. So I did upkeep the Bond of Gristle and Bone, of course, on the left flank to keep those War Spears at armor 18 as well. So here I'm just measuring out as well, just to figure out where I want to put my Blightbringer, which is very difficult when you have spears all over and a tail and giant arms that stick out everywhere. So I probably bent a few spears on the way, but he moved up. He did his Dragon's Breath aura, so that I'm getting +2 strength and +2 armor within 6 inches and within the 5-inch AoE that he drops.
Didn't you, I believe you missed it, didn't you?
I believe so, yeah. So I missed and it scattered, I believe. So I'm only rat 5 on his def 14, so I needed 9s to hit. I was hoping to direct hit to get some damage off. He did have shield guards close enough, so I was anticipating that I was going to go to a shield guard anyway, but my hope was that at least I could potentially put enough damage into a shield guard to take it out. So it scattered. I believe I boosted on a couple of guys.
Yeah, the bottom Krell warrior was out of the stone and
right.
out of Madrak's control, which is why he became knocked down when he did survive the tough. Right.
So I'm just boosting here just to try to get some damage, and really I just have to bump the fury of the Blightbringer up to so that Anamag has enough to pull next turn. So
yeah, that was one thing I was surprised to see with your list, is the fact you only had the Blightbringer as a war beast. So that
it's honestly it's not my list, it's other people's list, but the idea is that because she gets free spells every turn, she never really needs any more than that, and you've got a giant meat shield in front of the Blightbringer, so the Blightbringer is an end game piece that stays safe until the end. And once you've chewed through all the heavy hitting meat shield, you've then got a gargantuan to deal with. So that's kind of, I think, the idea behind it. So here I've charged in my my tentacles just to get a couple of attacks, and again placing them in such a way that he cannot avoid free strikes if he ignores them. And I put the one tentacle, I just held it back just to kind of have it in the way. So swinging, I can't remember if I hit any of these or not, but I was needing 8s, so I didn't have oh, one of them was knocked down, I think, so I did. So I do end up killing the one in the aura, or did I can't remember now.
Yeah, you killed a couple of Krell warriors. You killed the couple that are left just close enough.
Gotcha. So,
and you got the guy on the far side, which that one I hadn't planned on losing, but it was okay given the circumstances.
They're there to die anyway.
Exactly.
So the tentacles are in a spot where they're going to be. He has to deal with them, otherwise potentially take free strikes. And then I'm basically just trying to get my War Spears in spots where I can benefit from the aura and be in a good spot to countercharge. I didn't want to get them too far up and give him potentially too many of them. I think I'm just measuring here to try to get a couple of shots in him, if at all possible. I want to try to start putting some damage on the champions. They are my prey target, so I get I start at POW 13. With Anamag's spell, which she did put on them, gives them +2 strength, so that takes them to 15. They go to 17 for prey, and then if I'm in the aura of the Blightbringer, they go to 19 on my prey target. So that's pretty significant if I can hit. So I made sure that the Warmonger War Chief was in range to give them that +1. So they go to I guess they go to rat 8 against their prey target. So
that became a real theme of this battle for both sides. Is just just the constant stacking of buffs over and over and over between the two of us.
That's what this list does. All the strength bonuses, when you add that to a thrown weapon, is glorious. So just putting some damage on the champs there just to start thinning them out a little bit. He uses Sanguine Bond to spread that out nicely, and I've put the Warmongers up a little bit, or the War Spears up a little bit too, but I was counting on them being relatively hard to hit because they have set defense, which means they go to 14 on the charge, so I knew they were going to be relatively difficult to hit. Here I'm putting a couple, just kind of clipping the house to try and get defense bonuses if at all possible, and just wanted to huck a couple of spears at those the Krell Warriors. I'm only Rat 6 at this point, so I need 8s to hit. So was kind of just shooting for shots, and if they hit, great, and if not, then whatever. They're there. They're going to be difficult to hit by the Krells, and one of them will also get potentially the house bonus, and that puts them far enough ahead that they will be able to countercharge if he does move up. And I believe that is it for me. And at one point, is this the turn that at one point I accidentally brought one of the Fury with it was stuck to the bottom of my hand, or stuck to the bottom of I think it was stuck to the bottom of the large the proxy base, so it moved over. So at all times the Blightbringer had 5 on it and she had 2 on her, is basically the theme. So, and that's over to you.
Yeah, so I'm looking at what you've done.
And I put my Spell Martyr on the flag so that if he did not contest, I was going to score. That was the other thing.
Yeah. It's right about here I get seeing how you moved up, and I've realized, okay, these tentacles are going to be a bit of an annoying meat shield. I sort of go into the tank for a few minutes because I realized that what I really need to do, especially with the scenario this live, is I need to play to scenario. So I have to figure out how to get everything done. And I realized here that when I deployed, I made a slight mistake in putting both my Fellcaller and Elish Garrity, the Occultist, up on the right flank,
far away from the flag,
far away from my flag.
Yeah.
So, which is normally your own flag's pretty easy to score.
Because Eilish is over by the wall, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty far.
What I realize I can do though is because he's speed 6, I can run him 12 to get him to the flag.
Right.
So what I start with is using my Fellcaller to give the Krell Warriors Pathfinder again, so they can go up through the forest. I charge them up. And I give them a charge run order to get them up. If they get a couple of attacks in, that's great. But honestly, I want to get more up so I can get in his face and use him as a true meat shield and keep you from getting any closer.
Yep.
I didn't mistake the reach on your tentacles, so you get a free strike on my unit leader, so that, and then I do a field promotion for him. Yep. So you got a free Krell there.
2-inch reach is great.
That's what you tell the ladies. And so as I get that moved up, it does okay. It's nothing too much, but wasn't expecting it to be. So then I decided it's time to start moving up my the rest of my forces to get them in there.
Yep. So you're going with your Krell. You swing at the. I think you combine on the War Spears. I can't remember because we're looking at def 14 versus your mat of 5.
Yep.
So it's
So first I used the single Krell Warrior to take out the first tentacle that was blocking my path.
Yep.
Then I used the other Krell Warriors to do combined melee attacks into a couple of your War Spears.
Yeah. I don't
like those guys.
I don't think you killed any, but you put some. I can't remember if you hit both of them or not, but maybe put a little bit of damage.
I didn't. I think I just put a bit of damage in them.
Okay.
So I'm gonna measure things out again here now. I don't like that tentacle being there because it's just close enough to the flag to cause me trouble. So I realize I've got to get rid of that one as well. So what I end up doing is I end up using my champions to get up there and deal with them because they're a great option. Because they, weapon masters with 2 attacks each. Yep. That tentacles are tricky, but it's going to go down to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you're weapon master, it's no problem.
Oh yeah. Because weapon master charges are the best. So I had 2 of my champions charge the tentacle. The rest charged up to deal with the other tentacle and some of your war spears. Yep. Because I'm going to say it again. I don't like war spears. They are big and nasty, and they throw things. And
they do.
What kind of man throws his weapon? I mean, come on. Grip it in both hands and just go at it whacking them.
Oh, jeez.
So that's how the champions do it, and that's how you got to do it, man.
Yep. And I think I made a mistake with I didn't need those shots for my war spears. If I had kept them back even like an inch more, then they wouldn't have been in range of the charges. Yeah. So I probably should have just left them back an inch or two.
I agree. You got
and then they would have been available.
They are a little too bloodthirsty on that one.
Yeah, because then they could have on the following turn done a better counter charge rather than me having to worry about losing any. So you killed the 2 tentacles. Did you kill any war spears? You killed.
Yeah. Oh, I killed all 3 of your tentacles.
Yes. Yeah. You killed the 3 tentacles.
Yeah,
and 1, 2, 3. I think you killed 1 war spear.
Yeah, 1 war spear. So now I get thinking about, okay, I've got to make sure I got to deal with the scenario. Mm-hmm. So I've got to get the occultist, Eilish. I got to get him down to the flag. Mm-hmm. But I know that's not going to be enough. So what I realized is I've got to get my Mauler into the hard right flank zone. Mm-hmm. So to get me another point, because he's the only war beast I have on that flank.
Yep.
So what I end up doing is I end up moving the champions through the forest to get them up there to help contest that center zone, give you a wall that you have to deal with your war spears.
Yeah, those jerks are difficult to deal with.
And that's why I love them.
Yeah. You can see I've just laid down a tentacle beside my Hellmouth. That's just for me to be reminded next turn to bring one back. So that's what the sleeping on the job tentacle is.
Yeah, sleepy tentacle, sleepy. Yeah. So, but I need to move those champions up so then I can move my Mauler up to get him clipping that zone so he can be contesting it. But what I did was I measured out to make sure that he and the bomber were both still within Madrak's control.
That's important.
Very important. Yep. So that's why I did the proxy base here.
Yep.
So I started off and I got the Rune Bearer to do Harmonious Exaltation, moved up, activated the Even Ground, gave myself Snipe so I could throw my axe at your Blightbringer, and then that was a nice thing to do a few points of damage, but I was really aiming for is I did a ricochet off of her, off of the Blightbringer onto
Amok.
And now I had hoped to take out Amok because it's only a 8-point health.
It's 8 health, but it's armor 18, so tough.
The dice weren't quite there, but I still took.
You did a good chunk.
I still took off 4, so at half health.
Yeah, so that's good. At this point, I wonder, is your Rune Bearer in range of your caster?
He's in 5.
He looks outside of 5. Okay.
So we do that, and then it's like, okay, well, that didn't go quite as well, but now Madrak's in that center zone, and that's even better for scoring because Madrak is hard to take down.
Yep.
I realize he's going to need a bit of help here, so that's why I start moving up my my warders so that they can shield guard for him, and I spread them out so that I can have 1 shield guard for him, 1 can shield guard if you take shots at my bomber, and I leave 1 in the center because what he'll do is he'll be able to take shots for my stone, and I managed to kept them all within unit command range. And in a way that means when I move my stone up, all 3 will actually be in range for the stone.
Right,
so if you did try to take multiple spear chucks at my stone, I was going to stop that because I know that you know how important that stone is.
Stone is good. Yeah.
Exactly. So here I am moving up the champions, and it's just making sure that I get that zone so I've got enough room to get the Mauler in there.
So they're in that nice little lane between the house and the forest there.
Exactly.
Where the battle's going to take place.
Yep. And then I'm just moving up my stone guys, making sure they're within range for those shield guards.
Definitely important to spread those warders out so that you can maximize the shield guard placement.
Exactly. So that's the best way to do it with the shield guards. You got to make sure they're as spread out as you can.
So their armor they ended up being 21 or something silly like that.
Well, but then with the stone gets pretty high, and then if you get them in base contact, then it gets even worse.
Yep. Good times. So over to my turn, and I'm looking. I just have to. He did not feat, so I have to get as much damage done as I can to try to thin out. Particularly, I want to try to thin out his champs as much as possible. I figure this is going to be feat turn because his stuff is close enough that I can now get attacks in. It would have been nice if I had left my bottom war spears just far enough back that he wouldn't have got those free attacks in. But it is. Yeah, it is what it is. Because did you take one out with with the bomber as well?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I threw a couple of bombs at you, and I took one out with the bomb.
And so I think I grouped them up a little too much too. So I should have had more of them available. You didn't do too bad. Attack,
you had them fairly spread out, but you did leave one cluster of 2 or 3 of them together, which that's a little too.
I was greedy for those shots the previous turn, so I'm just having a look here. I want to make sure that I can place Amok in a place where she's going to, or sorry, Anamag, where she's going to be able to extend that feed out as far as possible, seeing where I can get I think this is feet turn. Yes, I believe so. So figure out where I can get the damage into the champs. I do have a meat shield in front of me right now, so I do have to get rid of some of those Krell. The nice thing about the way he charged with several of the champs meant that they were not in base-to-base contact. So on the bottom flank, I believe only 2 of them were in base-to-base.
Yeah,
so
looking back at it, on my turn, I should have done my feet.
Yeah,
but I was a little torn because it does have sort of 2 sides to it with the healing and the stopping charges.
Yeah,
it's tricky to know when you do it sometimes.
Yeah. So here I am, just having a look about where the war spears are going to land. I should have probably paid a little bit more attention to where the Blightbringer was going to be and where his aura was going to extend to. I think I ended up with some of them outside of that when they potentially could have been in.
Yeah, a few of them.
So here I moved over. My feet token is in my other bag, so I've got that big blue proxy is for the Anamag feet. I've got Amok close enough that I'm getting my extended control range there, so it extends out to, or sorry, he does not give that, so she's base 14, so I was measuring for 14. He gives plus 2 inches on spells that originate from her, so I spent a lot of time planning out this turn, trying to figure out how I was going to get the meat shields out of the way, and what I could also do with the tentacles. I needed to get the tentacles out of the way. I would have liked to have gone with the war spears first, so I could have applied the Death Shroud or Dark Shroud, so that he would have been -2 armor, but I wasn't able to do that. I also put out the strength bonus on the bottom unit of War Spears, one of the left units of War Spears, and I left enough Fury on her so that she would be topped up the next turn, because I figured I was going to at least kill something with a War Spear, which meant I could then cast the Fury's Strength, or whatever it's called, for free on the 3rd unit. Charged in with the tentacle. I can't remember if I hit or not because they're def 14 and I'm only 6 on the tentacle. Then I assaulted in with the war spears, those who were able to assault. Assaulted in, and
I think it was everyone but one.
I think one of them was engaged. Yeah, so I do the assault shots first. So with the their base rat of 5 plus 2 for the prey takes them to 7, and plus 1 for the war chief command range, so they're actually rat 8 against his def 14. So I'm still needing 6s, but I land I believe I land pretty much all of the shots. I put a pretty decent...
you do. You put a lot of damage into them.
Yeah, and they end up being the bulk of them. I think all except for one were POW 17, and then one of them was close enough to the Blightbringer to bump them up to POW 19. So that's pretty significant on the assault shots, and then swinging with with their charge attacks to do some extra damage there. So we're looking at, I think this is where we checked. We just wanted to verify the interaction of Sanguine Bond with Grievous Wounds, because we weren't sure at first how that worked, but Sanguine Bond is just you dividing up the damage between the dudes. It's not actually removing damage. Sanguine Bond still works. So I go ahead and I roll really well. They're -2 armor right now, so that puts them down to 7. What do they end up being if they're under the stone?
Under the stone gives them +2, that takes them up to 18, and then your minus takes them back down to 16.
Back down to 16. So I'm hitting them at POW. I think POW 17.
Yeah, so most of your shots are dice +1.
Yeah, it's pretty high with the bonuses and stuff. So I end up doing.
This game had way too much math.
Yes. So the guys that I hit, I managed to take out. So I believe there are a couple left in that unit still.
Yeah, I'm left with two champions there.
I also got a bit greedy with my, you can see my UA is the metal model at the bottom there, and he should have stayed back. He assaulted in, and he should have just stayed back. He's the one that grants prey, so guys, always keep your War Spear UAs back.
Yes.
I got too greedy and wanted to make sure I took out the guy when I should have just kept him back, so he was safe from the bomber, because the bomber can shoot very far. So here my Blightbringer is just trying to clear out some of these stinking krills that are in the way. I've got a 2-inch reach, and he's got 3 initial attacks, so I'm just swinging to try to hit them. I'm only mat 6 though, and they are they're 14, so it's
you do miss a few of them.
Yeah, so it's I was just basically buying. I didn't bother boosting. I was just buying attacks. I needed to bump them up to 5 Fury anyway. In hindsight, I should have not bought the last one, and I should have put up Boiling Blood. That would have been significant for the next turn, because every time he damages me, I place an 8-inch spray template. You're automatically hit, POW 12, I believe, and you're on fire. So
yeah, that would have been
so that would have
difference. That would have changed.
That was definitely a mistake on that turn, because I could have gotten some juicy sprays there. So I moved up my my War Chief to a spot in the top left, so that he was going to be able to hand out that 9-inch bubble of +1 to the War Spears at the top, and they charged in and assaulted to get some shots on the other unit of champs. So
and you do a pretty good job. You take out half of them.
Yep, yeah. There's one of them is getting the wall
bonus from the house.
Wall bonus, but I think I cranked at least one of the to hit rolls there. I can't remember if I missed the shot. I'm basically rat 8 against these guys as well, and mat 6, 7, 8, 9. So mat 9 effectively. So I hit there.
Yeah, mat 9, a good thing. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, well, against you're still pretty high, so you're still pretty hard to hit until I thin you out a little bit and you're not base to base. So yep. Grievous Wounds meant he wasn't doing tough rolls, and he was at the -2 armor as well, so it helped me to take those out. So I think there's is there.
Yeah,
2 left in the back, or 3?
There was two left and Scaldy.
Yeah,
because they were in the back. So,
yep, so I ran up the tentacles just to be in the zone, and I also ran one of the War Spears to be in the zone as well. I wanted to make sure he was going to have difficulty clearing that zone, and I put my Spell Martyr base to base with the flag, which meant I scored up a point, and he scored. Oh, you did not score your third one.
You didn't because of your tentacle.
The tentacle was there,
this turn, I admit, I started to see how low time was getting, and I started to feel the crunch. So I realized, okay, I've just got to get to it and get to work. And honestly, I think I rushed a few things, which led to mistakes. So I started measuring, thinking, maybe I can use the Mauler to try to clear the zone. But I realized with that forest in the way, there's no way he's going to get the movement.
Yep. And I left the War Spear outside of 9, so you couldn't get to him. I wanted to make sure that there was really no way, without significant effort, that you could clear that zone.
Yeah, and you did a good job with that. So,
and I think I've got 3 tentacles in the zone too. So
yeah, you've got the 3 tentacles back there, which those things are annoying,
Yep, they are.
Annoying when you got tentacles invading your zone.
They are great.
Yeah,
they just keep coming back.
The very next day.
Yep.
So I realize here I've got to get some work done. I do toy with the idea of trying to bring down the Blightbringer. I mean, with it being his only beast, it's a good way to cripple how many points he can actually score.
Yep.
So that was...
Not to mention how much fury I get.
Yeah, that too. That means you got to start going at it like an emo kid in high school.
You got to start. Yeah, exactly. You got to start cutting for the fury. So.
Oh, exactly.
But yeah, I think that's definitely where Boiling Blood should have been up, because it would have, if it didn't deter attacks, it would have potentially killed the attackers after they got in there. So.
Oh, exactly. So yeah, we see here me getting some attacks in, and you rolling for your toughs. So.
Yep. Oh, because you're doing this.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, this is the bomber.
Yeah, yes, threw the bombs on your War Chief.
Yes, and you took out my UA, so that was sad. And then you got some blast damage.
Yeah, I did some blast damage on the other two, but nothing major.
Yeah, so that was. I definitely should have kept the UA back, because that takes away prey, which is sad. So I'm gonna have a hard time hitting the
dealing with what's left of the champions.
So.
So now. I move this champion. Now what I do is I move him far enough to get a charge in on his War Spear, and I mismeasured when I was doing my measurements, and I thought the tentacle was outside of the 4 inches needed for the flag. So that's why I moved past it and focused on the War Spear.
Yep.
Because that was the biggest threat. So I turn around and I do my attacks, and my other champion, he moves up to deal with the last two guys who survived the bombing.
Yep.
And he quite expertly takes them out, no problem. Gotta love those double weapon masters.
Yep.
And the silver guy takes care of the one on the bottom, but I'm here I am. This is the mistake I was talking about with rushing. Always double check your measurements, and when in doubt, check with your opponent.
Yep.
Because if you both agree on it, then you know what's going on.
That tentacle was within 4 inches for a reason. So
yeah,
there was a method to that madness.
He was just within, and it was my bad for not double checking the measurement with Dave.
Yeah.
So I continue on to deal with everything because I gotta admit you're pushing pretty hard with those War Spears. They're pretty nasty, especially after the assault. So
you've now taken out. Is it the whole unit on the bottom?
Yes.
I think. Yeah, on the bottom right flank.
So what I end up doing here is I get my Fell Caller to put Pathfinder on the warders and move him up and get him to yell at the War Spears in front of the champions to soften them up.
Yeah.
I don't kill anyone, but I do a couple of points of damage.
Yep. Yeah, they're def 12, so not super hard to hit, but they are armor 18 because of her upkeep. So that's good.
Yep. So then I make sure to move up my. I get measuring here to check. I'm originally thinking about just moving them up, keeping them as shield guards, but I realized they've got a 2-inch reach on those axes. They're pretty good, and the Blightbringer. I got in some good shots with the Krell Warriors and so on, so it's getting pretty beat up. So I'm like, you know what? Let's try to take care of this beast.
Yep.
So I get 2 of my 3 in there and do some damage with one of them. One of them misses. So no big deal, but I do get them in base to base, so they're still up there in their armored bubble. And
more importantly, you have things in my bottom zone, so that's definitely important to at least make me work for getting rid of what's there.
Exactly. That was the other thing. I needed to get those zones filled with as much bodies as I could. Because while you've got some nasty attacks, you don't have a ridiculous amount of them. Yeah, it's high quality of attacks, but it's a lower. I mean, it's 6 units per dude. So once you start killing off a couple, it starts to blunt what they're able to do. Yeah, it's not quite as effective, I think, as champions. But I mean, it's a trade-off. You've got range, I don't, but I get 2 attacks. You always get those attacks, exactly. So and they're weapon masters, which is nice. So then I move. Speaking of which, I move up my champions. I charge them with a slight angle, so they get the full 3 inches. Yeah, and I just vaporize your War Spears that are up there. Yeah. Scaldy did miss with his first one, but luckily he's got his Rapid Strike, which gives him an extra attack. I'm def 14, but when they've all got an extra attack, then they're swinging for 12, so it means that even if you miss on the first one, you're typically going to take him out on the second one. I believe you left the one there still in the way, which is nice. I think one of them might have been getting the house bonus. So yeah, that one was getting the house bonus, which is why my unit leader missed him. So then I move up my stone and activate it, make sure it's all good. You feed it as well, right? Yeah, I was feeling the crunch here, so I rushed Madrak's activation, which I feel is another mistake, is rushing your caster's activation. I quickly threw down even ground again. Yep. I threw I think it was 1 into the stone. And I threw 2 into the stone, and I kept him on 1. Yeah. Or no, I kept him on 2 because I was worried about, honestly, getting this close to the Blightbringer and everything else. Yeah. I was expecting you to chew through those Krells and the Warders and just to try to come after Madrak. Yeah. So I thought about it, but Madrak, if he had 2 Fury on him, and you've also, doesn't he have a scroll or something? Yep, yeah. So I wasn't going to have enough high quality attacks to hit him because he's also high defense. So I decide time is getting very low. I've got a this few minutes. We realized my mistake when we did the turnover. Yeah. I honestly, I admit it kind of got a bit tilted when I realized I made that mistake. Yeah, so I've got a few minutes up on you, so I did score on my flag, so I'm up 3-2. So my plan is to clear the zone, my bottom right zone. So I turn the Blightbringer to get everything in that kind of 90-degree angle of my right. Whatchamacallit, my right field of fire, and I did a sweep attack, which allowed me to get attacks on all of the guys that mattered. So just going through and removing those guys. Oh, I had Amok go first and cast Carnage, and she moved back on the hill. So that's going to give me +2 to hit because my Blightbringer is only Mat 6, which meant that it was going to be hard for him to be hitting. So that gave him
Put him to mat 8 against your def 14, so I was able to clear the zone.
That was good use of your Gargantuan. Those sweep attacks, you don't see them enough, and they're so useful for clearing off infantry. Yeah, he likes to be shooting his gun, but that was clearing off the zone was paramount for sure. So just charged in. I think it just was putting tentacles in the way, getting them to contest your flag as much as possible. I just wanted to do only what mattered and force the clock back over to Pat. So I put some more stuff in the top zone. I think I can't even remember. I think I took maybe a couple of attacks with my War Spears in the top, but it was a very quick turn. I wanted to try to keep it as fast as possible while making sure I'm contesting and scoring. I realized I was under a minute here, and I was actually at a minute, and I started lining up my dice a bit for my plan, because my plan was to have my bomber go up, attack your 2 tentacles, and then pass the clock, which would have, I mean, it wouldn't have been great, but it would have kept me in the game and kept me going up on points.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, what ended up happening was, because I kept the 2 Fury on Madrak instead of just 1, I had a single point left on my bomber, so when I did my threshold check, he actually failed it by 1.
Yeah, and his facing was just so...
And his facing was just enough that he couldn't see the Stone Scribe next to him, but he could see Elish, who was sitting on the flag. Yeah. So he ran up and ate him. And ate Elish. Yeah. So that was the nail in my coffin, and... Congratulations, man.
Yeah, because that put me at, well, you ended up clocking. I had 2 minutes and 42 seconds left, so I was pretty low too, but I kind of recognized earlier that I was getting low, so I wanted to try to push. As soon as I was able to match the points, I decided to try to push for scenario. So, so it was a good game. It's I definitely need more practice with Anamag. There's lots of placement things you have to watch for, because it's very much about where your Blightbringer ends up, where your War Spears end up to be in that Blightbringer aura, and also remembering where Anamag wants to be sitting, so that she, when she gets her free spell, she can be benefiting from the +2 range from Amok to hand out her buffs where she wants to as well. So she's definitely a buff bot for her force, but you need to make sure that her placement is good and the rest of your army's placement is good. But
I've still got to work on not clocking so much with Madrak. It's a little tricky when you've got this many trolls and this many moving parts to it. But
and lots of attacks.
I'm starting to get a feel for it.
Yeah,
so.
I hate champions. That's the moral of the story. Champions must die. Thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the match. Hellmouths are great. They're good to get in the way. I didn't unfortunately get to eat anybody with it. I don't think I did any pulls just because it didn't end up being relevant. Oh, putting that. Safe word. But thanks for joining us, guys. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. We'll have the matches posted in a bit here, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.